Hi everyone, it's Sonia here to give you some updates, give you a little rundown. As you may have heard, the FDA Advisory Panel has okayed the Pfizer vaccine for the 5 to 11s. And other than that, there's some very interesting information and data coming out from across the world. And also some policies that our governments are taking are changing and evolving. So this is what I want to give you a rundown on all these new developments. Before I start, I just want to say thanks for liking the video. Thank you for your support on Patreon. That helps keep my channel going. And also, please check out the link below for more information on the super antioxidant glutathione boosting C60 EVO. This is the kind that I use that I've told you before has helped me with my sleep. This is the one natural health product that I absolutely cannot do without. So please check out the link below for more information, and if you use the link to order, you get a discount. So okay guys, let's start with this. FDA Advisory Panel okays Pfizer vaccine for children 5 to 11. So they had a forum online for public commentary, and they had a discussion which people could contribute to, which was posted online on YouTube. I did read some of the commentary. I noticed that in the pro camp, it was people saying we need this to, stop the spread and get the pandemic under control and to protect the kids. And in the against camp, it was a lot of people who had had bad experiences themselves, including some doctors. There were differences of opinions in the people who contributed to the discussion, but in the end, it was 17-0. The advisory panel recommended for the approval of this vaccine. Some people are very happy about this, and some people are very upset. I got to tell you, because I'm going to talk about COVID and COVID vaccine in this video, I'm going to keep it very neutral. This is basically the only way that I can broach this subject, is to just kind of share with you what is already out there in the news, and to keep myself very neutral about how I share this. Now, you guys can look into this, you can make up your own minds, but just to let you know, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to give you the information, and then you guys can decide what you think. So it's not actually a done deal. I mean, there's a 17-0 vote in favor of emergency use authorization for the 5 to 11s, but it now has to go to the FDA, which is going to make a final ruling. They say, despite the vote in favor deciding whether the benefits of vaccination for the young kids outweigh potential risks, appear to weigh heavily on the advisors. This is a much tougher one, I think, than we had expected coming into it, said committee member Dr. Eric Rubin, editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine. The data show that the vaccine works and it's pretty safe. We're worried about a side effect that we can't measure yet, he said, referring to a heart condition called myocarditis. It just seems to me that in some ways we're vaccinating children to protect the adults, and it should be the other way around, said committee member Dr. James Hildreth, president and CEO of Meharry Medical College in Tennessee. I do believe that children at highest risk do need to be vaccinated, but vaccinating all of the children, that seems a bit much for me. So, I mean, it's not done, but so far it's heading towards getting approved. Update from Canada. More than 1,700 fully vaccinated people got COVID in Ontario over the past 2 weeks. Experts say it's not a concern. Well, to sum it up, the reason they say it's not a concern is that since so many people in Ontario have been vaccinated, I mean the majority of the adults, it's bound to be that there's going to be some people who are vaccinated who still get infected. And that's all it is. And basically they're not very sick. So it doesn't mean that the vaccine doesn't work. I'm trying to be really careful here, but look, this is just government data. I'm just sharing with you. Some interesting information came out from the UK statistics. In the UK, Assets Publishing Service.gov.uk, COVID-19 cases by vaccination status between week 36 and 39, 2021. Something interesting here, for the under 18s, the most recently vaccinated, you see that the rate among unvaccinated persons is 10 times higher. However, the next group who had had their shots just a little earlier, the rate among unvaccinated persons is about 50% higher. By the time you get to those in their 30s, it's almost the same. And strangely, by the time you get to the 40s, it's higher in the vaccinated group. And this is not total amount of cases out of the vaccinated versus unvaccinated population. This is rate. This is if you take by 100,000 people, how many of them test positive. The rate is actually higher in the vaccinated. Like, what's happening here? Interesting information from the UK. Jabs do not reduce risk of passing COVID within household. Oh, that's what the study suggests. Research reveals fully vaccinated people are just as likely to pass virus on to those they share a home with. So the study suggests that even those who are fully vaccinated have a sizable risk of becoming infected, with analysis revealing a fully vaccinated contact has a 25% chance of catching the virus from an infected household member, while an unvaccinated contact has a 38% chance of becoming infected. However, the figures do not shed light on the severity of illness, while the team cautions these figures fall within a range of possible values, meaning the exact size of the difference is unclear. The analysis further suggests that whether an infected individual is themselves fully vaccinated or unvaccinated makes little or no difference to how infectious they are to their household contacts. Here's an example. Fully vaccinated Ontario man dies after COVID-19 sweeps through his hockey league. So he went to play in his hockey league in September and caught COVID. And it turned out there were 15 COVID cases linked to the hockey league. And all were breakthrough infections in fully vaccinated people. So unfortunately, he got very sick and passed away. It spread like wildfire. Weston lived with his spouse, youngest daughter, son-in-law, and 2 grandchildren. Everyone in the home tested positive for COVID-19, despite those above 12 years old being fully vaccinated. It spread like wildfire. How did this happen? Weston Campbell said. We're shocked. How did we all get this transmitted to each other? We were all double vaccinated. We went into the rink showing our proof of double vaccination with our masks on. So, I mean, I'm not going to give my opinion here. You guys figure it out. Here's a little more updates on Ontario. Ontario won't include COVID-19 on list of mandatory immunizations, top doctor confirms. Ontario will not require students to be vaccinated against COVID-19 to attend school and will not add the vaccine to its list of mandatory immunizations. We have to look at the trends and the ongoing threat of this virus. If it persists season after season and it's an ongoing threat, at that point we would review with the government. Maybe at that point the vaccine will stop this. Who knows? Maybe it'll happen. You know, there was a lot of talk about it's being made mandatory for everything, including school. So in this area, the brakes seem to have been applied, at least for now. Also, and look, this is not translated because honestly, when I translate stuff from French to English, it's so bad that I can't read it. So I'm going to keep it in French and I'll just translate it for you. So this is an Ontario is foreseeing lifting all restrictions related to COVID-19 by the end of March. And now I don't know if this is true or they're just saying this to get people's hopes up and make everybody happy. But they're saying that they have a plan to remove all the measures between October and March. So here's their deconfinement plan. The 25th of October, lift capacity limits for restaurants, bars, and gyms. 15th of November, lift capacity limits for marriages, nightclubs, and stripper bars. So 17th of January, end of the vaccine passport in the restaurants, bars, and gyms. Really? Interesting. I wonder if that's actually going to happen. Yeah, we've been made promises before in Canada that weren't kept in the end. But that's very interesting because I was thinking, well, with all the money and infrastructure they've invested into this vaccine passport system all over Canada, they're not going to get rid of it. Maybe they'll get rid of it for restaurants, bars, and gyms in Ontario and keep it for other things. I don't know, but let's keep an eye on this. 20th of March, 2022, end the mandatory mask. except for in some situations, maybe in a hospital setting. Well, Ontario, those are some big promises. We'll see what happens. Meanwhile, though, in Ontario, they say that with mandatory vaccination of healthcare personnel, hundreds of hospital employees have already been given the boot. So in that area, they've actually been more strict than in Quebec. Legault opens the door to another delay for mandatory vaccines among healthcare workers. Originally, it was supposed to be the 15th of October, no ifs, ands, or buts. Turned out that was completely impossible unless you wanted to kill a lot of people. So they had to move it to the 15th of November. However, according to the government's most recent report, 19,634 health and social service workers are still not adequately vaccinated. So that went from 22,000 to 19,634. So they're saying it looks like they might have to move the date again, but they're hoping to apply the decree, and they say we will certainly be able to apply it in certain places, such as emergency rooms. I mean, look, it's looking like this very hard line approach that they were trying to take is just impossible. They're just not in a position to do that. They don't have that kind of leverage. The leverage is on the side of the healthcare workers at this time. And also, the compulsory vaccination is being tested in court. Here's the lawyer, Natalia Manoli. They're saying the justice will not make a policy on the merits of compulsory vaccination of healthcare workers, warned the judge, who heard from workers who want to overturn the government decree. The question here is whether the decree violates the Public Health Act. If the government made a bad decision, it will have to answer for it in front of the population, not in front of a judge, said Judge Michael Yago. So the lawyer is making the case that enforcing this would cause death, suffering, and catastrophic situations. State officials recalled that the decree was issued in the public interest. So, I mean, it seems like the bottom line here is whether it protects the public or not. It's supposed to protect users and staff. Vaccination is supposed to be the most effective way to reduce the risk of transmission. Apparently, they're not arguing whether that's true or not. They're just arguing whether, you know, the decree and enforcing this is going to cause more harm than good. The alternative being to regularly test the workers, but they're saying it does cost a lot of money to do that. Anyway, we'll see how this turns out. For now, Quebec will not mandate the COVID vaccine for teachers and other school staff. So most of the teachers are vaccinated anyway, or most of the staff. But there's a few who aren't. And so the question was, what do we do with them? They're saying that the mandatory vaccination won't be imposed on school workers due to an improvement in the pandemic situation across the provinces and high rates of vaccination among the staff. I think it probably has something to do with the fact that it's like in the healthcare sector, they really just can't afford to lose any people either. They're already understaffed. The resources are stretched thin. But they're saying that it's just because actually 90% is fine. Meanwhile, there is a crisis going on in the ERs. And I've heard of this happening in Canada, the US, and overseas as well. ERs are now swamped with seriously ill patients, but many don't even have COVID. Inside the emergency department at Sparrow Hospital in Lansing, Michigan, staff members are struggling to care for patients who are showing up much sicker than they've ever seen. That's weird. What's happening? Even in parts of the country where COVID-19 isn't overwhelming the health system, patients are showing up to the ER sicker than they were before the pandemic. Their diseases more advanced and in need of more complicated care. Months of treatment delays have exacerbated chronic conditions or worsened symptoms. Doctors and nurses say the severity of illnesses range widely and includes abdominal pain, respiratory problems, blood clots, heart conditions, and suicide attempts, among others. But there's nowhere to put them all. Yeah, this is happening all over, and including here in Quebec, including in the pediatric departments. And again, it's not because of COVID. The staff at the pediatric hospital of Fleurimont is overloaded with many newborns needing urgent care. This critical situation is explained by the precocious arrival of various respiratory viruses this year, and a serious lack of nursing staff. So the pediatric intensivist Sylvie Lafreniere said the situation is something that has never been seen. You need to know that it's 30 years that I've been a pediatrician with 20 years in intensive care. The tragedy we're living at this moment is the small baby who is extremely sick. When I'm talking about a small baby, it's 8 days of life, 12 days of life, 18 days of life. Again, this weekend, there were 6 babies aged less than a month who were in intensive care with help with oxygen, a tube down the throat to breathe. They're saying it is caused by respiratory viruses that have arrived earlier than usual, including RSV, respiratory syncytial virus. So what we're seeing here is some kind of backlash from whatever we've been doing for the last year and a half. And she said this is something that is never seen before. So many very, very small, very young babies, so very, very sick. Anyway, you guys, there's the update. I hope you found that information useful. I didn't really give my personal commentary or opinion. Like I said, I was going to just keep it neutral and just sort of relay to you what's going on. But let me know in the comments what you think. So that's it. Thanks again for liking the video. Thanks for your support on Patreon. And please check out the link for the C60 EVO. And thanks for listening to me. And I'll see you next time.